Reverend Bob Hand.
I had to stop her before she was going to promise I was giving everybody money or something. You know, that works so well, Stephen. I'd like to add it to my talk. So periodically I'll just stop and we can all say la la la. Let's see if I can fit that in. But you know, I've been so pleased with the weather we have now. Isn't that beautiful out? And the change of the seasons, and particularly fall, you know, because the change of the seasons is a lesson for us. It tells us about change and that life changes. That's part of what life is about. And yet at the same time, we often fear change, don't we? Do you know people who are in situations that you know they hate, but they just won't change? You know, it's kind of, I'd rather have the misery that I have than not be sure of what's coming next. That fear of change is so deep inside us. Alexander Graham Bell said, when one door closes, another door opens. But we're often so busy looking longingly and regrettingly at that door that closed that we never see the door that opened. Because we get so caught up in where we are and it's comfortable. Even if it's not good for us, it's comfortable. But you know, Helen Keller, and I mean, who could be more vulnerable than that, both deaf and blind, said, life is a great adventure or nothing at all. So we've got to decide if we're going to participate in that adventure, because it's going on, whether we want to consider ourselves active participants or not. And you know what change is? Just like the change in the seasons, change is a journey. That's what it is. It's a journey from one place to another. And spiritual change is that as well. It's the spiritual journey that we're on. Now, it's going to happen whether we actively participate or not. But we can be active participants in it, which makes that journey so much more meaningful for us. So let me talk about this change, this journey, and how do you prepare for a journey like this? What's it entail? Well, you know, the first thing that people typically think of on a journey is, where are we going? You know, what's the goal? What's our destination? And since that's how typically people think, of course, I'm not going to start there. Cut. You know, the important thing, though, really with a journey, it's not just where you're going, but where are you starting from? If you don't know where you're at, it's a little hard to determine how you're going to get wherever you're going. And as I thought about that, I thought, well, how do we make sense of this? And I realized that there is just one reality. It's something we all say, but we've got to incorporate that. There's only one reality. Now, one of the things that means is that all of the physical laws must follow the spiritual laws. If we think we know a physical law and it is actually in conflict with the spiritual law, then we've got it wrong. We have to rethink it. But the other thing that tells us is when we have these physical laws that we understand, they can be guides to the spiritual laws, because they must both go together. So physically, where are we? And I think one of the interesting things about that however still you are physically, however much you're sitting there, even if you're going to sleep and feel like you're very still, you are moving at an incredible speed. You're on a continent that's drifting. You're on a planet that's spinning, a planet that's turning around a sun that's spinning around a galaxy that's in motion, and a space that's constantly expanding. You cannot stand still. It does not occur. And spiritually, it's the same thing. You know, spiritually, sometimes we think we're just set. Here's where we are. And there are some religions that teach us that you get some place, some relationship with God, and that's a place you're going to be and a place you can stay. But that's not reality. Reality is motion. And spiritually, you are on a journey and you're moving. Now, how is that important to us in planning our spiritual journey, if we want to take that active part in our spiritual journey? Again, let's look at physical reality. Isaac Newton's laws of motion. Do we want to all say those together? I'm just going to go with one. A body in motion will stay in motion unless acted on by an outside force. Okay? Now, if I stood out here and I threw a ball as hard as I could, that ball would slow down and fall to the ground. So it doesn't seem like it goes on forever, but it's being acted on by an outside force. It has gravity. What it actually has is the air around it, which causes friction. If I were out in space, away from everything, and I threw a baseball, I could throw it 100 million miles. It might take it a long time, but once it started moving, it goes forever. A body in motion will stay in motion. But the other part about that is it's like being in a rut. Because if you're in motion a certain way, you stay in that way. And our spiritual journey is like that. That, of course, is called momentum. And we have spiritual momentum. And unfortunately, that momentum is often given to us in ways we didn't want. When we were younger and we were taught things that may not have been all that good for us. About how we're going to burn in hell, you know. About the things we must do with God or for God or to God in order not to be punished, or, you know, the absolutely rigid life we have to live. And all of those things were energy pushing behind us and setting us in motion. And what that law says is that body will stay in motion in the same way, at the same speed, until acted on by an outside force. So if we want to have the spiritual journey that we're choosing, it's not enough to say, I want to go over here. You have to apply a spiritual energy to make that motion, to change that motion. And we can change it. But where do we get that energy? And again, I'm going to go back to some physics. And many of you probably read several months ago about the Higgs boson and the potential discovery of it. I know Bill wanted me to talk about this earlier. I'm only going to mention it briefly. They call it the God particle, which drives physicists crazy, by the way, because there's no one particle that connects us with God. But it is very important, because in physics, particle and energy are interchangeable. So by showing that there is a Higgs particle, you show that there is a Higgs field. Now I know you're all relieved by that, to realize we know there is a Higgs field. And what this Higgs field does, it does many things, and I'm not going to talk about several of those. But one is very important to us for today, because a Higgs field is a field of energy that's everywhere. It is a field of energy that's everywhere. And there's more energy in 1 cubic yard of the Higgs field than is on all of the energy being expended on Earth. And you know, when we think of that, we think, well, here's all of this energy surrounding us. But that's not it. It's all of this energy within us. It's everywhere. It is us. It's not just on the outside. This Higgs field is throughout everything, including us. And it means we are it. And it's the same with the spiritual energy and the spiritual path. Buddha said, you cannot follow the spiritual path until you realize that you are the path. We are the energy. We are the path. And so when we want to take this spiritual journey, we don't have to look outside us. And in fact, Dag Hammarskjöld said, the longest journey is the journey inward. When we look to be a part of this spiritual journey, not just to travel on it blindly, to be a part of, we have to start realizing that we are it. You know, another saying is that a turn in the road is not the end of the road unless you don't turn. You know, when we realize that we are the spiritual path we want to follow, then we can go with that path. And where is it going to take us? Aldous Huxley said, and I think this is a key to it, that the goal of a spiritual journey is not a place where you end up where you gain something that you didn't have. And it's not a place where you end up where you become something that you were not. The spiritual path is a dissipation of our ignorance of who we are. The spiritual path is our realizing who we really are, and that the path to God is the path to understanding ourselves. And that's what this spiritual journey is. You have to realize that you have been given in life this momentum, the spiritual momentum on a journey. And it might take you anywhere, and you're perfectly free to just go on the ride. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But maybe you have something else. Maybe you've seen this turn in the road and you say, I want to be a part of this journey. I want to realize that I'm the path, and as the path, I can also be giving direction to where I'm going. And as long as we realize we're not looking for some place, you don't have anything to gain, you don't have anything to become. The spiritual journey is to go inside and realize your true divine self. And when you do that, you're there, and the journey will continue. Thank you.